At UCLA football, with great money comes great power, but does it also come with great responsibility? And yes, I just ripped off Spider-Man with that. Jaylen Clark is injured for UCLA basketball, and Lincoln Riley talks big things with USC football. Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos morning report. It is March 5th, 2023. It is Sunday. Take a moment. Thank the Lord for the blessings in your life. I'm going to be on the road later today, heading up back to Portland to work. But in the meantime, if you like the content about LA sports that we put out, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know when we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And by all means, comment. It is a lovely day. Let's have a chat. Before we go through the news and notes, a look at the scoreboard. Fourth-ranked UCLA wins their 10th consecutive game over 8th-ranked Arizona, 82-73. Jaime Jaquez Jr. continues his torrid pace, 22 points, 10 rebounds. Meanwhile, USC defeated Arizona State 68-65. Boogie Ellis scored 28. The Kings defeated St. Louis 4-2. Kevin Fiala scored a goal and added an assist. LA ties Vegas at the top of the NHL Pacific Division. LAFC opened their defense of the MLS Cup with a 3-2 victory over Portland. Carlos Vela scored, added an assist. There's a rapid recap of the LAFC match on the LAFC playlist. Also, FC Dallas 3, LA Galaxy 1. Hoy, Dejan Joveljic scored, but the lone striker in the Galaxy formation, Joveljic only touched the ball twice. There's a rapid recap of that match on the LA Galaxy playlist. I got one more thought that I want to get out about that match a little later in this clip. Meanwhile, today, Golden State's at the Lakers at 12:30. Darvin Ham called out the Lakers for a lack of intensity. They might want to ramp it up today. Steph Curry is scheduled to play for the Warriors, and D'Angelo Russell for the Lakers is expected to miss his 5th consecutive game. Then later, over at Crypto.com Arena, it's Memphis at the Clippers. Clippers are on a 5-game losing streak, but on the plus side for the Clippers, Yosemite Sam, Ja Morant, won't play for the Grizzlies because he doesn't lift weights. But he still puts on a gun show, am I right? The LA Times reviewed UCLA football coach Chip Kelly's contract extension. His pay has increased for the next 2 seasons, including the one that's coming up to $6.1 million. It is a $300,000 pay raise. And then it'll edge even further to $6.2 million the year after that for the remainder of the contract, which goes through 2027. Athletic director Martin Germain cited the team's improved record in each of Kelly's years. And I don't have a problem with that part of the argument. What I do have a problem with, and if you're a Bruins fan, I'd like to hear your thoughts, is that with each pay raise that a person gets, does it not follow that that person theoretically gets more power within the athletic department? Maybe not necessarily more power than Germain, but definitely gets more complete authority over the program that he runs. Why is the former defensive coordinator for UCLA getting a $900,000 a year desk job on the California taxpayers' dime? I got a problem with that. I really do. Basically, Chip Kelly is now paying 2 coordinators for the price of 1 for a financially strapped, in the red, deep in the red athletic department. Had, for example, Kelly been asked to get rid of Bill McGovern, to not give him this golden parachute, the $900,000 that would theoretically be going to McGovern could literally pay the entire pay raise that Chip Kelly gets for at least a couple of years. So I have better things to do in my life than watching a random guy running wind sprints in Indianapolis, right? I'll figure I'll wait until the NFL Combine is over, and then I'll tell you who allegedly impressed. because that's what sports writers are for. They're the guys who are going to sit there and stand in awe of dudes jumping to swat little things up there to show how high they can jump or whatever. That's not my cup of tea. According to CBS Sports, former UCLA quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson did not impress. Didn't. Oh, sure, he ran a great 40. They loved that. Sure, he jumped really high. They loved that. You know what he didn't do well? Throwing the football, quarterback stuff, the deep ball. Not trying to clown the guy, but that matters. Scouts were not impressed with that part. We mentioned how the Bruins basketball team has won 10 consecutive games, but it was not all roses, hugs, and tears at senior day at Pauley Pavilion. Junior guard Jaylen Clark left the game injured, and he returned to the bench on crutches. After the game, he had a protective boot on his right foot. We do not know the extent of the injury yet. We don't even know if it's necessarily the foot or back at the ankle. He's going to have an MRI later today to give a little more information. Spring practice for USC football begins today. We spoke quite a bit yesterday about the defensive personnel changes with the Trojans. There is another I did not know about. Linebacker Carson Tabaracci will no longer be a linebacker. He's in transition. He's going to play tight end. He is a redshirt freshman out of Utah. He's going to switch to offense because it's a way to get on the field. If you look at USC's depth chart, they have a ton of linebackers to choose from. Shane Lee, Eric Gentry, Rajon Davis. Mason Cobb is a transfer in that they're high on. Tackett Curtis is a high school recruit that Lincoln Riley can't stop raving about. Meanwhile, after Malcolm Epps, who plays tight end for USC? Exactly. They don't know. Speaking of Riley, he went on some podcast that I don't listen to and told some dude that I don't know that, quote, it's gone from teaching the guys what winning looks like, what it feels like, to convincing them they can do it because they've been down for so long. There's a psychological hurdle that you've got to get over. I think now we know we can win, unquote. I'd tell you what the name of the podcast is, but who remembers these things, right? If Joe Biden had a nickel for every podcast out there, he could pay off the national debt and everybody's student loan. There's way too many podcasts out there. I know this. What I will say about Riley, though, dude, you had 11 wins last year. You know where you need to improve. It's been talked about ad nauseum. Go do that thing. Mike Stothers, a current assistant coach for the Anaheim Ducks, is a former head coach for the LA Kings minor league affiliate out in Ontario. Stothers has been diagnosed with stage 3 melanoma of the lymph node. He is scheduled to have surgery soon. Keep your hopes up for that, gentlemen. For those of you who don't know, lymph is like a cleanser for the circulatory system, you know, your white blood cells, stuff like that. So it's not like cancer of a body part, where theoretically you could, if you wanted to, amputate the body part and go on with your life. Your blood is your blood. So tough times for the man coming up. Took the wife to see the Vegas Golden Knights play New Jersey on Friday. Saw Jonathan Quick warming up for them. That was weird. Even though he didn't play, exceedingly weird. He's been asked about what it's like to wind up playing in the same division against your former team, the LA Kings, to which he said, it's motivating. A motivated Jonathan Quick is a motivating thing. The problem is he's also middle-aged Jonathan Quick. I mean, he's like, before the trade, he was, in terms of save percentage, he was in the 90s for among all NHL goaltenders. So in other words, he was not only good enough to be a starter, he wasn't even good enough to be the primary backup. He was backup to the backup territory. So man, love you to death. The Kings wouldn't have 2 Stanley Cups without you. You're the greatest goaltender that franchise has ever had. You got your work cut out for you. So do with that motivation what you will. The four-man scrum to play center field may have been whittled down to three. There are two men we definitely know that are in the running who are James Hayward and James Outman, or Jason Hayward and James Outman. Both of them homered on Saturday. But that isn't what keeps them in the running with the incumbent, Trace Thompson. It's because when talking about the center field position, Dave Roberts did not mention Chris Taylor. Is it an oversight on his part that Taylor is no longer in the running for center field? Is it just a slip of the tongue? Or is it a mistake and Chris Taylor is still in the running? It's possible. But Taylor has also been recruited to play shortstop now that Gavin Lux is injured. So, did the center field battle get whittled from four men to three? How much do you love someone? Love gets tested, pushed to the limits. There's a lot of Dodger fans, legions of them, who still love Kike Hernandez. Sorry to see him leave for Boston. Question for those fans. Do you still love someone after they crap their pants in public? Justin Turner asked Hernandez what was his most embarrassing moment during a playoff or during any game. Hernandez said that he sharted during the 2020 playoff run. Sharted. I was excited the Dodgers won the title too, but to the extent my nipples were hard, I didn't have to change my clothes, right? Pants were clean. And I love my wife, but if it ever came down to her regularly sharting, we're going to invest in a home caregiver. Either that or Mary Maids for whatever's on the floor. Kike Hernandez sharting in public. Going into Saturday's game against Arizona State, Trojans basketball guard Boogie Ellis was averaging more than 22 points a game. That average obviously going up after Saturday's game. Coach Andy Enfeld told the LA Times Ellis has made vast improvements in his decision making. You might recall that he was briefly open to get the idea of getting drafted in the NBA. But NBA scouts told him he had become more of a traditional point guard as opposed to an isolation shooter. So Ellis focused a lot more on becoming a traditional point guard, running the offense, and as a result of running the offense, distributing the ball, he's winding up getting more open shots when the ball comes back. Being a so-called floor general actually opened up his shot, and now he's scoring more points. I have one freestyle thought. I mentioned earlier that there is a clip on the disastrous LA Galaxy season opener. I got one more thought to get out of my system. MLS Commissioner Don Garber said he has not closed the door on the idea of eventually promoting and relegating teams in MLS. In other words, creating a tiered system like they have in Europe. You have to qualify to play in the elite leagues in Europe and in other countries, not so at MLS. The idea that the lowest two or three teams in a major league would get demoted to the minors, and the top teams in the minors get promoted to, in this case, MLS. The Galaxy have won a golden spoon, or I should say a wooden spoon, under the tenure of Chris Klein. The wooden spoon is a non-existent award given to the worst team in the league, the team with the worst record. That would qualify you to be relegated to the minor leagues. The reason relegation will not happen in MLS, do you really think MLS would be okay with relegating the LA Galaxy? Even no matter how terrible they are this year, no matter how long they're terrible under Chris Klein, do you really think MLS would ever consider relegating the LA Galaxy? Of course not. Of course not. And that means Chris Klein has even more power to continue to mismanage the team because he's not going to be held accountable. My problem with Mr. Garber is this. He's the commissioner of the sport. He could have told the LA Galaxy that your president was part of the problem with the cheating scandal and you have to get rid of him. He could have done that. You don't think Major League Baseball held the Astros accountable to try to get rid of their front office? Same thing in MLS. Unfortunately, Don Garber does not have the power to tell LA Galaxy what to do because the Anschutz Entertainment Group kept the entire league afloat when it was about to go out of business in the first few years of its existence. So it's a very odd power play. The LA Galaxy are terrible. It's Chris Klein's fault. And they're not going to be held accountable by the league despite the cheating, despite the incompetence. They're not even going to be relegated, and MLS is not going to embrace relegation because the Anschutz Entertainment Group kept the league alive. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. If you enjoyed talking LA sports, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We're talking LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corte El Queso production. Take care.